Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Hometown Heroes. I'm Mike Kenichi, and this is part 2 of our interview with the Fab Four from the first girls cross country team, which began in 1987. We're here with Heather Kovacs, Kelly Bryan, Lauren Anicelli, Sherry St. Jakes, and of course, head coach Joe Mazzanti. And I really want to thank you all for coming on again. Part 1 was a lot of fun, and I'm sure part 2 is going to be even better.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's get right into it. So year 3 of this program, but for all intents and purposes, year 2 of a full squad. You go from 5 and 9, and you flip the switch to 10 and 5. So I'll start with you, Heather. Talk about that 10 and 5 team and how special that was. I believe that was your junior year, correct?
Yeah, it was just, it was different. By then we were learning to run. We were doing the summers at Ansonia Nature Center. So we were starting to run a little more off season, really getting into it, and we kind of knew what we were going in to it, and there were new people coming up that we had grown up with, and bringing on the new folks. And it was just it was another year, and we more experience behind us after running for those many years, and I think the passion was still there. It was.
And you really improved a lot. I think you were the number 5 runner on the team that year, correct?
That was my one year where there were no injuries or crazy things happening. Sophomore year, I think I had my injury after running the best workout ever. I was like, oh, I feel so great. We ran so far, and I went in the weight room, and I was working out, and all I did was step down to get up, and I tore something in the bottom of my foot, and I was out the rest of the season. So, you really have to make sure you're stretching and prepping,
right.
And so, we made sure that we were ready for the season. We did our prep work, we were stretching, and
I'm sure by then you were learning so much more.
Yeah.
Mistakes you might have made in year 1, you corrected some of them in year 2, and then year 3, most of them were corrected, and you really learned how to pace yourself and preparate.
And more appreciative of the different workouts we were doing, and it was good. He kept everything different and interesting, and just another year, and it was exciting.
Right. One of the highest honors, I think, in any sport is when you're elected captain. And I believe you two, Lauren and Sherry, along with Audrey Cook, was it, were the tri-captains of that team. Yeah. So talk about what that meant to you to be elected a captain, because that's saying that, the coach believes you're a good leader, your teammates believe you're a good leader. So talk about that a little bit.
Let me take it. Oh, go ahead. Amazing that we were actually at our senior year that had happened. Right. I think it was just really an honor to kind of carry the tradition and continue to serve as a leader for the team and try to improve on our previous records. So it was heartwarming to be in that position for a program that we were trying to keep strong and keep the enthusiasm on the team strong and keep it fun, and just kind of continuing the ride of the team that we had started just 2 years before.
Right. So. And what did it mean to you to be a captain? I mean, we know, like I said, we know what kind of athlete you were, but still, when you get selected for something like that, it's got to be a great honor.
It's a very, very much a great honor when you're awarded captain of any team. It's a responsibility, and I think that the 3 captains brought something. Each of us brought our own talent or our own strength to the team, and I think that it was thought out very carefully by Coach Muzz, and he did this very purposefully, and that each one of us, there was a reason why.
Right, and she's not here today, but talk about Audrey a little bit and what she's meant to the program, because she was a big part of that program as well.
Mm-hmm. For me personally, Audra, very, very determined person.
Right.
She was on the quieter side, but definitely very methodical and smart. She was
Right.
definitely a smart runner and brought her own, unique talents to it. So
And I would say for Audra, it definitely wasn't something that came natural to her running. Every day she pushed and pushed and pushed. I remember she always had either an air cast on or shin splints or icy hot on her legs. I just know that I think some days were painful because she was in pain, but she continued to.
she worked through just about
She
anything.
continued to work hard and with the team, and I know it wasn't easy for her.
She never complained. Never.
Right.
Never quit. Not once did she complain, no matter what was happening to her.
Right.
And she liked her Walkman when she ran.
Wow. God, Walkman.
That's
Forgot
getting
all.
us all.
So Kelly, let me ask you this. It's year 3 for you as well. How did you feel you were doing as a runner? Did you feel like, you had improved a lot in the 2 years?
I thought I improved. I did.
Right.
Obviously, I hear about my senior year where I broke out of my shell, but I feel my junior year started clicking, coming together, putting in more, passion, heart. Not that I did it before, but I learned stuff, learned how to pace myself, open my stride, how to breathe better. It was goals I was setting for myself to improve my, ability. So I was happy with my standard of like how I did, and then I was like, oh, if I did that now, imagine what I could do next year. And it was good goals to set to help myself improve.
Right. Now, Coach, talk to me about that 10-5 team. Tell me some of the key wins that team had that year that really stand out to you.
Absolutely. I think the one that really stands out, it was fairly early in the season. We had a home meet against Seymour, East Haven, and a couple of other schools. I think Hamden, Housatonic Valley Regional,
Right.
St. Mary's of New Haven. But the big race that day, the big showdown was Derby versus Seymour. In that year, Mike, the 3 Valley schools, Derby, Seymour, and Shelton, all had very good teams, and all were pretty evenly matched. So we knew going into that race that Seymour was a key league opponent for us if we were going to have any chance of Amity and Cheshire were going to be 1-2. There was no
Seymour
way.
had a good program too, though.
They did, and
they
Joe
had very
Frager
good-
was the coach back then, and he, of course, from basketball fame at Seymour and then at Southern and now at Fairfield, or I'm assuming he's still at Fairfield. But that was a big rivalry in that sense, and. That day, for whatever reason, a couple of their top runners did not run. Something had happened. I remember Joe and I actually talked the week before the race, and we were, friendly rivals in that sense. So going in, we knew that they were without their top 2 runners, but we still managed to beat them soundly. And that was an indication to me that this could really be a good season. I think we came in 4-0 at that point. We had a very good race at the Coggin-Chog Invitational. And in fact, Lauren and Sherry were 7th and 9th, and both got awards that day.
Right.
It was a great race. Christy Froley got a freshman award. So I knew after the Seymour race that we had a good season. We then had to go to Shelton. Not at Shelton, but it was at Lyman Hall, but against Shelton. And that one, we also knew was going to be a tough one because Seymour had beaten Shelton. We had beaten Seymour. But we beat Seymour on a day when they weren't at their best. So now what was going to happen with Shelton? Well, we ran a good race, but we came just short. We lost by 3 points.
Right.
So now you had the 3 Valley schools all at 6-3 in the Hoosie. So as the season progressed, Mike, we got to the Housatonic League meet. And it didn't count for the official standings, but everybody's keeping track of this. It's important. We run this race. Going into this race, Lauren was a little bit hurt. Kelly, I think, had just gotten hurt in gym class playing soccer.
Man.
So she was on crutches. She couldn't even run in this race. But it was a great day. We ended up beating Seymour by 1 and Shelton by 2.
Wow.
And one of the ways that we did that, and we had done this all year long, and we would continue to do that even the following year, these girls were very disciplined. when, unlike Sherry's first race, when she went out like a rabbit in the first quarter mile, by this time they had the experience and the discipline and the knowledge to know how to run races. And that is, you try to run a pretty evenly paced race throughout the whole race. It's the most efficient way to run a race, and so many teams and so many runners don't get that. Even at the college level, you'll see them go out too hard. They didn't. And in so many of their races, they might start out, say, 50th, work their way up to 40th, and then 30th and 25th. And it's not that they're running that much faster at the end, but they're keeping the same pace, and everybody else is dying. And it was through that racing smarts, the racing knowledge, that they were able to accomplish a lot. So anyway, that was to the Hoosie meet. And we'll talk about the state meet after, but that's how we got to that point in the season.
Right, and you talk about Shelton and Seymour, and again, an M school, a double L school, and I mean, you went out there in year 3, but really year 2 as a full squad,
right?
And you go out and you get victories against them, and I don't care, sometimes they like to say cross country track, it's individual, but these girls and boys work each other every day, and it really is a team sport,
yes.
And that's a credit to the work they put in together.
Absolutely. No, it's a team sport. I mean, people look at it differently, but at the end of the day, that's the primary thing we're shooting for, is to be as successful a team as you can be. And it's not just your top 5 runners either, and it's not even just your top 7, because you don't know at any time of the year when somebody gets hurt, and we had our fair share of injuries and illnesses, as a lot of teams do.
Right.
Your top JV runners are probably going to run varsity at some point in the season. And even beyond that, Mike, everybody plays a part. It might be as simple as getting one of your teammates who might be down after a race to get them to kind of get their motivation back, to lift their spirits. It can be an encouraging word.
Right.
There's so many ways that you can contribute, no matter what your ability level.
Right. Now, Lauren, I think it was you in part 1 who brought up Christy Froley or whatever. And I think April Mermino was a big part of this team. She was a freshman as well. So you girls had 2 freshmen who could really, impact this team. Talk about, that was probably your most challenging thing as captains, is to keep those girls motivated and at practice every day, correct?
Yeah. April was a really hard worker, as all of us were, and she just kept plugging away. She had a lot of natural ability that kind of improved as the years went on, but she was up for the challenge. So for her, I just remember being more like support and keeping her, knowing it was going to be okay. Practices were hard, etc. But
right.
Once things got going and she was in the race, she was determined and motivated to finish, just like everyone else on the team.
Yeah, and April, she reminds me of, she's like a little Sherry. She was a pitcher as well, and was very dedicated to that and really pushing herself for sports in general. I think she was a sophomore, actually, and she just naturally pushed herself and was very dedicated. And like I think I mentioned Christy, because there was one point where she just was like, I give up, like I can't do this anymore. And I'm like, you have so much natural talent. Yeah. I give anything to have what you have. Do you know how hard I work to be at that level in which you can just go out and run and do so well? And I'm like, I have to really push myself. Yeah. And she was just a natural runner. And, like Mus said, you have to motivate other team members and try to encourage them to do their best and bring them up when they're down and keep cheering them on.
And Heather was great at that. I remember that year and I think the year after, but in particular that year, April was sort of not quite sure if she was going to run the following year. And I remember Heather talking to her, particularly at the end of the season, and making sure she would run. And then Christy was also, and they ended up being outstanding runners. So that's what I'm saying. It's a team sport. It's a team effort. Everybody plays a role.
Right.
And as you said before, I mean, Lauren, Sherry, and Audra, they did all bring something to the table, absolutely, as captains. And that meant a lot to the 89 team as well, because you need that. Sharon was a great captain in 88, and Lauren, Sherry, and Audra were great captains in 89.
Right. Now talk about the Class S meet that year, because the girls really did well in that Class S meet, correct?
Absolutely. Mike, we came in 6th. Now, on the surface of it, you say, well, the previous year we were 7th, and then we were 6th. And you're thinking, well, that's a little bit of an improvement, but it wasn't that much in terms of place.
Right.
But you have to look at it. That year in Class S was powerful. I mean, that division was loaded. You had 2 teams. Not only did you have Lyman Memorial and Litchfield, they were perennial powers in Class S for years, but you had Northwest Catholic and Coggins.
Right.
They had moved down from Double S the year before, and they both were in the top 5 in Double S the year before.
Right.
So you're dealing with that. Then you have Griswold. Now, Griswold was 5th. Griswold was 3rd the year before in Class S, and they had most of their team back. Okay? Here's an example of what I'm talking about. When we ran up against Griswold at the Wickham Park Invitational in mid-season, about 3 weeks before the state meet, they beat us by 159 points. Okay, it wasn't even close.
Wow.
We got to the state meet, and they beat us by 4. 4 points.
Right.
Huge difference. This team came on unbelievably strong at the end. You take Portland. They were 7th that year.
Right.
They beat us, or we beat them, I forget, it was like a 3-point difference at the Coggins Invitational. We beat them by 76 points in the state meet. And last night, I checked one other thing, as I have to do before one of these. Hamden. Now, Hamden beat us soundly in a home meet earlier that year. They beat us by 9 points. If you took Hamden's times and put them in the Class S division, just to kind of make a comparison, with invitational scoring, we would have beaten Hamden by a couple of points, and in fact, we probably would have been 8th in the Class Double L race that year. Now, a 6th place team in Class S does not come in 8th in Double L in almost any other year.
Right.
That's how good these girls were that year. It was, in most years, it just would have been a higher finish. We just had unbelievable competition in Class S that year. And if I can say on an individual level, if you want to talk about that at that meet,
Right.
Lauren and Sherry did it one last time with picking up opponents one after another after another. Now, this is at Wickham Park.
Right.
Wickham Park is a crazy difficult course. There are hills galore at Wickham Park. Fortunately, our home course was probably as difficult as Wickham Park and longer. But because of their discipline in how to run these races, that made a huge difference. They picked up people throughout the race, and they would end up 12th and 19th, which to this day, I think is among the top, 12 or 14 performances in Class S in girls cross country history.
Right.
So they were a solid 1-2 punch. And then you had April, who was 37th that day,
Right.
as a sophomore. She missed the last few weeks of summer training and most of the first week of practice because of a knee injury from pitching in the summer.
Right.
But she came on. Christy Froley was a freshman. She came in 43rd. Was the best freshman performance until 2013 when Kylie Rodriguez would
Right.
finally break that. And then Heather. Now, Heather, you might not have had the huge, great ability that we were talking about. But Heather managed, and we'll get to her senior year later, too, with Kelly, but managed to improve tremendously her junior year. You were 48th that year in Class S. And I remember you being a part of the pack throughout the whole year. And you get to the big meet, Mike, you get to the Class S championship meet, and your 4th and 5th runners play a huge part because there are a lot of points to win or lose in that section of the race with those runners. And Heather, by doing that, played a huge, huge role in that.
Right. And you two especially, Sharon and Lauren, it's great to make all Hoosie, all area, whatever, but you're in the Valley at Seymour, Ansonia, Derby, Shelton, and you two, in 3 years, go from new kids on a running program to all Valley. And you both have been good at other sports, and we know that, but for a sport that you knew nothing about, it had to be very gratifying when you were told you made all Valley, correct?
Yeah, it was amazing because it's not like you were chosen like other sports are chosen based on statistics and overall. If you run and you do well, you're going to be all Valley. That's
right.
how it is for cross country. So it was very special to me because it wasn't natural for us to do this, and just with hard work and determination, we just became, I would say, started to become experts at running, and we were reaping some of the benefits of that.
Right. Coach, that had to be great for you as well to see where they came from 1987 to now 1990 or 89. Had to be a great feeling for you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's when we kind of knew we had arrived. I still remember the yearbook headline that said something like, a team that's gaining respect. And that was the year that really put us on the map. It was unbelievable. Lauren, I remember, coming into the season, there were a few things in the back of my mind about how we would do. One question that had to be answered was, first of all, would Sherry be healthy because she had those knee issues the previous year?
Right.
I knew she had the ability. The question is, was she going to remain healthy? And she did. She remained healthy enough, anyway, to come through that. Worked really hard, and turned out to be, she and Lauren, probably two of the most disciplined cross-country runners in the Housatonic League, and even at the Class S Championship. Lauren I knew she would be varsity, but her improvement that year was phenomenal. She was 48th her junior year in Class S, which is good. But to go from 48th to 12th in one year
Amazing, yeah.
was amazing. I did not know that was going to happen. We got some hints of it in the summer when we started running at the Ansonia Nature Center and those races on Monday nights. But that came through, and that was a huge, huge improvement. Heather's improvement was huge.
Well, my senior year, I wish I could have done more, but I between junior and senior years, when I had my major back issue, I was lucky I was even able to play softball in the fall that previous year. I had an abnormal herniated disc, and it took me a year and a half to recover from that. And so just being able to run that year was a great thing, and to be able to make, some progress and push myself through it. I had very painful nights where I'd be home with the ice bags. Like it was rough, but I got there. I wish I could have done more, and but I think if I hadn't had that discipline and the history and the knowledge, I probably wouldn't have been as good as I was despite those injuries. So.
And both of them, Heather and Kelly, also had developed the discipline as well in terms of picking off people as the races would progress. And it was a great thing to see. It was a very rewarding year. I was very happy with how that season. I mean, the smallest school in the Hoosie ties for third in the league, and we're sixth in Class S against that kind of competition. There's not much more we could have done, realistically.
Right.
We had our share of injuries. Poor Kelly suffered a lot of injuries that junior year. I remember that. But we managed to just get through that enough and to work hard enough and to get that balance to do as well as we did.
Right. And it's always sad when something comes to an end, but I'm sure for you too, you walked out of that program satisfied knowing that you were part of the first group that started that cross country program, and when you left, it was a winning program.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And Kelly and Heather, I talked to these two earlier about this. Had to be an honor for both of you when Coach Muzz told you you'd be the co-captain senior year. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it was, and Kelly and I grew up like we were like best friends and playing sports, and so it was really, we were a good team, and building on each other's strengths and being able to I feel like that summer before was great. We really pushed those girls, and we ran all summer, and it was good. It was definitely an honor, and like I did what I needed to do and push the kids along, the teammates,
Right.
We just pushed to be a stronger, better team, and
Right.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I wanted to set examples, be a positive role model. A couple new freshmen that came in to, like, I don't know, pep talks. They didn't think they could do it. We had, like, injuries then too, and just people. I don't think I could do it, and it was nice to take them under our wing and set a really good example. That was my goal. I wanted to, and my times improved like really well my senior year, but I wanted them to look up to me. I wanted to be that role model. Like, hey, if she can do it and she's improved, then I can do that. I can be her.
Right.
So,
And it's not always easy being a captain either, because sometimes you're not going to be liked by your teammates if you have to like get on them for something. They may not like you that particular day. They get over it, but it's not always easy, because you do become like the bad cop even if you're not trying to be.
yeah, I agree.
So
There was some talking. No.
So the 1990 team, that was very unique in the sense that it looked like it was going to be a bad season. I think you started 0-3, then at one point you were 3-8 or 3-9, and it didn't look like it was going to be a good season. And then it was like a light switch turned on, and boom, like responded. But talk about the difficulty in the beginning of that season and just the way it ended.
Yeah, that was. It's not the way we scripted it in the off season.
No, because we were like, oh, if we did this year, the same thing. We can place here, because you would always compare the times from the year before.
Yep.
Even my junior year, the times like the class that you're like, well, had we done this year before, you guys would place a few, and we had these great. Wow, we still have Kelly and Heather. We lost a couple, good people. We lost Lauren, we lost Sherry, but we had several other right behind them, and it just didn't work out that way. That's when you don't expect it to.
Yeah,
It wasn't because of hard work, correct? It was just
No.
bad luck, more or less.
I don't know if it's the competition was different or bad luck or just, I don't know, it didn't come quick. I don't know. You might know.
Yeah, it was rough. It was a combination of things, Mike. It was certainly injuries, as they often do, played a role early in the season. That was part of it. Part of it was the competition. Our first meet, we went up against Immaculate, which had a good program, as well as Masick and Barlow, and we took a shot. We went there, and it was early in the year. We're always better. We're a team that always came on stronger at the end of the year. But then it was just a series of things, and you're right. We were 3-9 at the low point.
Right.
And I remember having a team meeting around that time, and basically saying, look, we can't change what happened, but we can change what we do from there on in. And there was a huge difference between September and October. And I think after that, there were a few issues. One was there were a couple of girls who were concerned about their grades going down. It was still early. But
Right.
so to combat that, we started a study hall twice a week. Before
right?
practice, yep. That seemed to help that issue. The injuries started to heal, which was good. And then there was a little more enthusiasm with the workouts. And so it all sort of jived together. I've never seen a team so different between September and October. In October, the first real indication was a home meet that we had here. And we had 7 opponents. To get a winning season that year, we needed to beat 6 of the 7. I didn't know if we could or not. but we did.
Right.
We lost to Shellen again by 3, which always hurts a little bit, but we beat everybody else. Lyman Hall, Housatonic Valley Regional, St. Joe's, there was a whole slew of teams. And again, how did that happen? Part of it was the way that they ran. They ran a smart race, and they just wore down the competition.
Right.
That was the first indication. We went to 11-10 for the season. Then we go to the New Haven County meet. And that was, to this day, I don't know how they accomplished what they accomplished that day. Going in, I was hopeful that maybe we could come in the top 8 if we had a really good day. The dream would have been 6th, I mean, if we had a great day. Because the year before, we were 8th in the county, and that was a good team in 89.
Right.
That was a very good team. Well, it was an awful day. I mean, it was raining, it was dreary. But they did what they would do. The first half mile or so, 3/4 of a mile, we were sitting in 10th place. But then our time of the race happened. We had all the hills running up to the dam and so forth.
Right.
And that's where these girls took off. The top 5 runners, Mike, improved 92 places between the half mile or 3/4 mile mark to the finish.
Wow.
You don't see that in too many teams. And they just came through and ran a super race, finished 5th, 1 place behind Cheshire. Cheshire was 4th. They're a perennial state power.
Right.
So we get back, and we get back to the team room. We didn't tell them how they did. Usually they have an award ceremony.
Right.
That year they didn't because of the rain. So we come back, didn't tell them until we got back. We're in the team room, and that's where we pulled out the 5th place plaque and the medals that our top 7 runners got. And I still, I mean, it still brings back memories that it was just a great moment in the history of the program. From there, we went to the Hoosie meet. We came in 4th, I believe,
Right.
which was a step up from how we did during the regular season. And then we got to the state meet, which I'm sure we can talk about. But I want to say, in 1990, whereas Heather had the huge improvement into 89 from her sophomore to junior year, Kelly had the huge improvement from her junior to senior
I think
year.
she was like 81st her junior
junior
year,
year.
and then 26th her senior
Her
year.
senior
Right.
year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just...
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, you were, well, you were all Valley.
All Valley, that's
Yeah.
And we had 3. We had
We had
Kelly, April, and Christy were all Valley.
And Kelly, talk about that, because again, I mean, that's a big honor. I know.
Oh, I was like,
I'm sure now you appreciate it more than maybe you did back then,
no,
correct?
I appreciate it actually both, which is kind of funny because I remember that race so well, and I remember because Muzz would set up, some of the boys would be placed around and they're like, if here's where you place, here's where you place, and they would yell out our times, yell out everything, and I just kept thinking, because they're like, if you can take out a couple more, you're gonna make it. I'm like, I'm making this, I'm making it, and I remember I kept passing and passing and passing. I'm like, I don't care, I'm gonna do it. It's my last. I'm gonna give everything I got. It's my last race. There's nothing you can do. And when I ended, and I was like, I really think you were the last one to make it. He's like, I think you made it. I'm like, no, really? And it was such an honor because it was an accomplishment. I'm like, wow, from, freshman to senior year, just to walk off on a high like that, it was amazing. And like I said, I would have never known that had, Muzz wasn't standing there and a couple other people saying, this is where you're placing, you need to take out a few more opponents and you will make it. And, because they were counting how many of each school their members came in to see where the cutoff was of how many came in. And I'm like, I was going to do it. I'm like, I have nothing to lose. I'm giving it everything I got.
Holly, look at Holly and say, but Kelly's improvement was crucial to being able to do that in the county meet and the success that we had in October that year, Mike. If that doesn't happen, we don't get to 5th place in the county,
right,
or as well as we did in the state meet. It just doesn't happen. Also that year, I just want to point out, April Mermina was our number 1 runner. She had really improved quite a bit between her sophomore and junior year, and now was sort of into her own. She would have a very good junior year, and Holly Coomer, who was a sophomore now in 1990, she would emerge as our number 5 runner that year, and she would have a very good season as well.
The other thing is too about that team is that team brought home the first trophy that Derby girls cross country ever had, correct?
That is correct.
Right. So, I mean, right there, I mean, they were the first group to start the program, and then 3 years later, again, you've got people making All Valley, you've got people finishing in the top 10, top 20 in the states, and then you've got them bringing a trophy home. So, I mean, it had to be gratifying for each and every one of you. It really did.
I think it's a testimony to Coach Muzz's ability as a coach too, because he made us all very smart.
Right.
He educated us in how we could succeed and what we needed to do individually, what we needed to do as a team. It was just a perfect package, really.
And Lauren, I don't want to, kind of dredge this up, but in your 4 years of playing basketball at Derby, you maybe won a total of 4 games, correct? If that, I know there were a couple of 0-20 seasons.
It's probably accurate.
I'd have to look that up.
Yeah, but I know there were 2 0-20 seasons, so that was your sport, but with this sport, you saw a lot more success, team-wise. So, I mean, a sport that you were just doing, to kind of get yourself in shape for basketball definitely became a love for you as well, correct?
Yeah, I took it as like just a huge challenge, and for how I improved so much that I don't even know if Muzz knows to this day, but he would try to prepare us so much for the next year, and at the end of junior year, he, that 88 year, he gave us all strips of paper that said, good luck, great job this year, maybe next year you'll be in like the mid-30s, and that's kind of how it started for me, because that kind of got my competitive juices going. I'm like, nah, I think I could do better than that.
Right.
So that's kind of how I got the motivation, and if he did that on purpose, it worked. But so it's kind of stayed with me my whole life too. Like we've all kind of talked about how this sport has helped mold us as people. So like that, it just motivated me to want to do better.
Right.
And it kind of just carries over in other facets of our life. Like Heather was saying, when we have challenging times in our life, we remember what we did in high school, even though it was so long ago. And I think of all the sports, that cross country somehow fostered something different in you, because it did take a lot of individual, mental strength in order to function as a whole team.
Right.
So I don't want to say it's an individual sport, but it was a different level of commitment, a different mental setting, and I think it's helped me in life in many ways.
Right. And I would say, you've all played for different coaches throughout your lives, whether it's softball, basketball, obviously cross country. But I would say that Coach Muzz is probably at the top of your list as one of your best coaches, correct, that you've ever played for? Yeah.
Well, we wouldn't be here, right?
No, I agree.
Right.
And I could keep talking, but he's just an overall, just a really, really good person who brings out the best in you.
It's hard,
It's kind of hard to sum it up after all this, and I don't know if we're gonna.
And
He's
I'd like to
an
look
overall
back
great
at
person.
your senior year too, because not only did we have a great team, a winning season, but later on in the year after cross country, we all played softball, and we lost in the state tournament, but I don't know, I'd love to go back and take out cross country and see if that would have impacted us. Did it push us to really be stronger players? We knew we were a good team, but did that continue on and encourage us
I never
to
thought of that, actually.
we really pushed ourselves as softball players too, I think, a little further. And
Yes, because that was our original. That was
we were originally basketball, softball. That was the only sports.
Right.
That's a really good
Well,
point.
the other thing too with basketball, softball is there were so few players. We all played.
Everything.
Yeah.
I mean, so when you have to compare yourselves, even with cross country,
Right.
there were days that I'd be playing 3 sports in one day. I mean,
Yeah,
I was
right.
playing for hours on end. I'd run my cross country, I'd go to basketball practice, and then I would pitch.
And Derbyettes.
And derby.
Oh, God, wow.
Yeah, so I think, when you're comparing, the teams to other teams that are Class L or Class M,
Right.
you wonder, the number of hours that some of us have put in to, Derby High School sports. You wonder, like, did that impact, your fatigue levels, or how many hours and hours and hours did we actually all play? It was a
Right,
lot of hours. 3 sports sometimes.
Yeah,
in one
very
day.
dedicated, very passionate, competitive.
Yeah.
From the time we were little.
I don't regret
Right.
being Class S, not
Yeah.
one bit.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, all 4 of you attended the Class S banquet a couple years ago?
Yes.
So here you are, the first group that kind of started it, and now you go back and you get to watch them celebrate and you get to be a part of that. Talk about what that meant to you to be at that banquet that day for those girls.
For me, it was an honor just to see the rings, just to see everything and pass it out. It was an honor because, Heather and myself being freshmen, we're the only ones. 4 years we did it, even though we weren't on the books officially into the second year, but we did it for 4 years.
Right.
We were the only two, just the way it fell. Not that anyone else would have, but we were the only two that did it all 4 years. And just to go back and see the girls and to see that what this program has become and to hand them their flowers and their rings, to me it was amazing.
Yeah.
That they've actually done what we set in motion to do, what we, always wanted to.
And I
Right.
remember, we were a strong team, and Muzz was a great coach, and I remember hearing that the program had, collapsed, disappeared, so there was no cross country for a while. So when I heard that it was back and that they won, that was amazing. Like, that
Right.
they could have kind of what we had and more. And it sounds like they have a great coach now who's just as enthusiastic, and it's a great program, and the girls are doing well, and it's great to see that.
Yeah.
Right. How was it for you, Sherry? Had you been back in Derby? You live in Derby, correct?
I live in Naugatuck.
Naugatuck, but
Yeah.
you came back to Derby for that moment. And that's the thing. You could leave it, but you never really
You
leave
never
it.
really leave
Right.
Yeah.
So how was that for you that day?
It was an honor to go. It was really exciting to see my teammates again. That was very, very, very special.
Now, had you 4 kept in touch with each other? Or no,
I would
really?
say no.
No.
I probably hadn't seen Lori and Sherry. I saw Kelly because she was in my class, but
Right.
I don't know if I had
Right.
seen them in like 20, 25 years probably.
And I had seen
And up until-
Sherry
You
over
probably
the
picked,
years.
right,
Maybe
back
it
up.
had been
Yeah.
a
A few times, but it's
Yeah.
as if no time had really
Yeah.
passed, which is
Yeah.
really
Right.
special. It's, I don't know, the bond, I guess, that you developed between, Muzz and the girls.
And growing up.
And then watching the girls, you always want to feel like you've impacted the world in some way. So when you're at a dinner like that and
Right.
see them, you just reflect on, what those girls have done to work, and you can appreciate and you can feel the pride, and it's
Right.
always about been Derby pride, it was a really great experience.
Right.
Still baffled by the fact
know.
that it's been 30 years.
It's a little
I
scary
feel
now.
like right now I just want to put my shoes on and start running.
Don't tempt them. Don't tempt them.
Nice.
Coach,
Yeah.
Just the history here, and
Coach, I know it was gratifying for you to see those girls get their rings and stuff, but I bet the highlight really was seeing these 4 attend that banquet. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I would bet that was the highlight.
Yeah, it's like trying to say, do you love your kids or your grandchildren? Or I don't know. That's. Look, I think the great thing about that, Mike, was it was just a very emotional night because, for me in particular, because on one hand I saw my high school coach Ken Marcuscio on one side of the hall.
Right.
I'm over to my left and I see my runners, over on that side. And then I'm looking out into the audience and I see the girls on the team now. And it's like this generational, mega
circle,
generation.
yeah.
4 generations of, well, I'm kind of a half generation.
Yeah.
I'm not really that much older than them. But but it was a very emotional time, and to see, it was like the fulfillment of the dream. As a coach, you always want to try to win the coveted Class S championship. That's always the ultimate goal.
Right.
And to see that actually happen was the fulfillment of the dream. They've had the middle school program, they've had a girls indoor and outdoor track team, so they've been running year round, many of them since 6th or 7th grade, and that plays a huge part in the success.
Right.
But nevertheless, they made the most of that and the opportunities that they were given, just like our kids did that. They made the most of the opportunities that they had. And there are a lot of parallels there. Different era, different experience level, but a lot of parallels with their character and their approach to running and everything they do.
Right. Sharon and Lauren, or Sherry and Lauren, I'll start with you. What is, it's 30 years now, but what has this program meant to the two of you? Like, what would you say if you could describe it in a few words?
That's a very tall order.
In a few words.
In a few words, it's very difficult because it's life, the life lessons are just invaluable.
Right.
Honest to God, of all 3 sports that I played in high school, I think, besides for my determination and my envisioning how to pitch a ball, I would say that I utilize cross country in my life today. And it is very true.
Wow, that's awesome.
It is true. I use running for stress relief, for, it's a mental thing. It's too hard to describe in a few words.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Lauren, what would you say?
I definitely have parallels there. I think that overall it gave me the ability to believe in myself in general, because it really is a very strong, mentally a strong sport, and I feel because of that, like your character is improved on, and it kind of parallels my speech that I gave when I was a senior that said persistence is the key to success, and I often do think of cross country and other parallels in my life. Even when I'm at the gym, I think of, God, if I did that in high school and I ran that, I may not be at that level now, but it just motivates me to say I can do anything.
Right. And Kelly and Heather, what would you two say the impact that cross country's played on you?
Kind of the same thing. We're a family. It's so weird. Like, you get together and you still go where you left off, and like Sherry said, you apply it to lessons. It didn't scar us, I guess, because I still run. I'll go up to the high school and I'll run. I'll run. I enjoy it, and I never thought I would, but I actually enjoy running. It's a stress reliever. It feels good. Pace yourself, and I don't know. It's just a bond. It's a weird bond that I feel we all have. No matter when we run into them, and I've moved out of Derby, and like you said, coming back, you never forget your hometown, and I think that one sport just always kept a lot of us connected, and along with other sports. But I have children that play sports, and I run into other families that play sports, or will come to Derby and play, and we'll start where we left off. Hey, remember that cross country meet when so and so fell? Because their kids are runners too, and it's a bond that just, I don't know, it's a special bond I think that we all have, and we're family, and I think thanks to Muzz we have that, because I think he set it in motion. We were always there for each other no matter what.
And he also kept us connected, through all these years. If he hadn't sent, I've been connected with Lauren, but to have somebody care so much about your athletes so much, and intermittently through our lives, I've gotten an email from Muzz. It's very, it's very special.
Right.
Yeah, it's great, and like I can say the endurance, just pushing myself mentally, physically has helped me, and it helps me to push my kids as well, and to understand it. It's like your success is dependent on, how much you put into it and you push yourself. And, I could easily give up. And like running, it was so easy to give up. I had so many issues and but I'm not a quitter. I push myself, and it's like I didn't have the ability, but I really was determined. And you set a goal and you push yourself to accomplish that goal. And that's just, like life in general. I can't run. I'm not supposed to, but I do run once a year on the field day or whatever they call it, where they send the kids to the school. My kids have to run 1 mile, so I go out and I run 1 mile a year.
Wow.
And I love it. Though my hips can feel it. I love it. And then my feet go numb and my legs, the usual. I took up swimming because it's less impact, but that cross country has pushed me through that too, because it's the breathing, it's the distance. You just keep pushing yourself and working yourself, different workouts make it unique. And my son's just starting to run, and he loves cross country. He didn't want anything to do with track, and he's like, I like cross country, and
wow.
It's okay. And so I'm excited to see the future, and if he'll continue to do that. And I think of Muzz, and I guess I run. I'm that person like Muzz, who I'm running around the different places, so I get a little running in as I run to different parts in the meet to push him, because I know how much that means to have that person pushing you on and encouraging you. And so it's just something you can take throughout your entire life to encourage others. And
right. And finally, Coach, never mind just as runners, what have these girls meant to you over the years, just as individuals?
Oh boy. Well, we got another hour. I can. Look, and obviously I'm very fond of all the teams I've coached over the years, but there is something special about your first team, at least as a head coach.
Right.
Your first team and watching them progress. As Kelly said, there is a special bond there. In fact, I think Kelly said it the best in an email about a year ago. She said, we started out as people who were getting in shape for basketball season. We then became a team, and then we became a family. And I think that really sums it up. Watching them as individuals in high school, and then even later, finding out little things in their lives and how they've succeeded. I remember I was at work one day, and I'm reading about in one of the business publications that Sherry got some kind of healthcare hero or nursing award or something. And I'm like, it just sort of hit me. But they were great, and I'll certainly remember those days. It was a special time, personally, but also I think in the history of the high school in the late 80s and early 90s. They're always going to mean a lot to me. And then the final thing too is, all of the great things that you accomplish on the track, around the course. That's all great, and certainly that's one of the things that you strive to do. But there is a higher purpose, and that's to try to prepare them for life. So, it's not that you're trying to be mean, or you're trying to, they have to do extra because they miss practice, or it's all designed to prepare them for life, because life's not easy, and you're going to get challenges and difficulties. And hopefully, if I was able to help in some way with that means more, really, than all of the accomplishments in the sport itself.
Right. Well, it's hard to believe that we finished this quick, but we are done, and it was a lot of fun, and I had a blast. And like I said, I can remember this group years ago. Like I said, I saw some of you play softball, basketball, and I've seen plenty of film on you running, because Muzz doesn't, he has an archive for everything, which is great, because someday your kids will get to see that. But I really do applaud you for the job you did, and I really want to thank you all for coming on today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So there you have it, folks. The Derby cross country team, the girls cross country team, won the state title in 2016. The boys would follow that up in 2017 with a Class S championship. Many dynasties in sports, such as the Yankees, the Celtics, the Lakers, the Patriots, the Giants, whoever you want to pick, it all starts somewhere. There's people that lay that foundation for what those teams will be. And the 2016 girls cross country team had a phenomenal run. But none of that would have been possible if not for a group of girls that started this cross country program in 1987, along with an ambitious coach who felt that they could win and do a great job. There's names like Cook, Coomer, Froley, St. Jakes, Anicelli, Kovacs, Miller, Byron. These girls laid down the foundation for what would be Derby cross country and what it is today. For Hometown Heroes, I'm Mike Kenichi saying good night, everyone.
Thank you.